Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. Ben Brode's new game Marvel Snap was released recently. I assume that you know who Ben Brode is. Ben Brode was one of the original creators, the main original creator of Hearthstone, and after that he started his own company Second Dinner, and they got a Marvel license and they developed a new card game, Marvel Snap. And obviously people have been asking me, okay, are you going to do content about Marvel Snap? Are you going to play Marvel Snap? And I don't plan to create any Marvel Snap content. I have tried out the game, of course, professional interest, but it's really not a game for me. And now I saw Ben had tweeted a pretty long thread about some of his design ideas, and that really also explains my disagreement with many of these design ideas, really explains why I'm not going to be creating any Marvel Snap content. So you want to watch this video if you want to hear more about these Ben's ideas and about how I reflect on those. So let's take a look at what has been written. When we were first developing Marvel Snap, we wondered if we could do away with a card game staple, the mulligan. Obviously we did, but early testers hated it. We changed their perception with a single change to one card. When I first worked in Hearthstone, physical card game mulligans offered just a single choice. Do you want to get a new hand with one less card? We felt like our smaller hand size in Hearthstone, a better choice would be to choose X cards to replace. I think it's a more fun mulligan, but it's more dangerous in that it reduces variance and makes it more likely that you're going to draw into a combo if you're playing a combo deck. Okay, dangerous in that it reduces variance. I'm kind of on the opposite side of this because I would like to play games with low amounts of variance so that the actual player's skill would be reflected more in the game. But Ben's idea about this is pretty much totally the opposite, which is kind of funny. Let's take a look at what else Ben wrote. Card games are fun in large part due to their variance. Each game playing out differently is what separates it from games like chess, which play out so similarly that often players memorize long series of opening plays and counter plays. Well, I do love chess, so yeah, I can kind of see that, but also this kind of also paints a very unsympathetic picture of chess. Because yes, you can learn opening plays, you can learn very long series of theory, some very theory-heavy openings in chess, but especially if you're not at like very high level in chess, it is far more important on what your decision-making capability is. How do you perceive the positions? How do you perceive the fundamentals? How good your grasp of the fundamentals of the game are, rather than what your memorization is. That memorization part really only starts to apply at the very, very top. And this each game playing out differently makes them fun. Well, in chess, I mean, unless you're dedicating your life to chess, each game will play out differently as well. And it's the skill-intensive part of chess is not memorizing the openings. Actually, it can be counterproductive to your chess progress to focus too much on memorizing those openings instead of understanding the problem-solving logic within the game. And if I think about the most fun I have had in Hearthstone, the most fun I have had in Hearthstone was probably with some Control Warrior decks several years ago when decisions really mattered, resources were limited, and I had to come up with solutions that would optimize my use of resources to answer all the threats that my opponent can present. And that sort of Hearthstone really does not exist anymore. Sure, there's variance. I mean, I drew cards and I didn't always get the perfect cards that I wanted, but then I needed to come up with another plan on how to use these specific resources. It was still constrained. There's still a specific set of tools that I have access to, specific set of tools that my opponent has access to, and then we're trying to come up with ways to make optimal use of those tools. And it is this part of Ben's Twitter thread that I think that he makes very, very, very big logical mistakes. The more variance in a game, the more problem-solving skill is required, since you are constantly put into new situations that you couldn't possibly have prepared for by memorizing the best answer. This kind of reeks of disdain for chess, even though chess is very, very super skill-based game, where your problem-solving skill is extremely important in ways that, I mean, Hearthstone problem-solving is a joke compared to chess problem-solving. The more variance in a game, the more problem-solving skill is required. This is just blatantly untrue. This is a logical fallacy. This just doesn't. No, It just doesn't apply at all. Because the more variance there is in a game, that means that the more situations there are in a game that are actually unwinnable or they are unlosable. So there is nothing for you to decide. There is no problem for you to solve because the variance has solved that problem for you or made it impossible to solve. So this is like the complete opposite of truth. And this is pretty much the gist of why I do not intend to play Marvel Snap. This approach, we want to put a lot of variance into the game. Although Ben does have some ideas on how to implement that variance. As he continues, when we built Hearthstone, we ended up with a game system that had less base variance than other card games. Pretty much the thing that I liked about Hearthstone, by the way. And we knew we need more variance than we had. We had to add variance in the form of random effects on cards, output randomness. Still note how little output randomness Hearthstone used to have compared to what it turned out to be years later. But then, a big goal we had with Marvel Snap was to add a ton of variance but focus it on input randomness, where you see the random events before you make your decisions. You have more control this way and it feels more strategically satisfying. I don't find it very strategically satisfying to be revealed to see locations and then they just completely counteract my plan, or to get a random card into my hand and the opponent gets a random card and then theirs just beats mine, or yeah, so you could argue that this input randomness, like, it's not a pure thing. It's not either or input-output randomness or output randomness. In fact, Marvel Snap has lots and lots and lots of randomness that you cannot actually do anything about. So you have more control this way. To an extent that might be true. There might be some ways in which Marvel Snap has more control than Hearthstone of today. On the other hand, Marvel Snap compared to original Hearthstone, I would definitely argue on the side that Hearthstone actually had more control than in Marvel Snap. But yeah, that is anyway the type of stuff Ben wants Marvel Snap to do. They want that randomness stuff in it. And I think this tweet is super important in really describing the overall of Marvel Snap. In Snap, we knew that once players understood how the cube worked, and how you could bail out at any time for only a small loss of cubes, the impact of bad luck would be lessened. And also, missing a 1 or 2 drop in Snap is really different than in other card games. So these cubes, so you snap, it's kind of like poker. You can increase the ante, or then you can withdraw, and you will only lose what you have already betted in. And that, yeah, sure, over large sample sizes, it really becomes like poker. You're optimizing performance over a large sample size. There's going to be a ton of randomness. You're going to win, you're going to lose. And managing the way that you win or that you lose is one important piece of that skill set, because that allows you to influence the effect of randomness on your overall game and your overall progress. And that's something that I really, really hate about the game. I just... This whole snapping, retiring, bluffing... Marvel Snap has so much to do with poker. So if you enjoy poker, you probably might enjoy Marvel Snap. If you think like Hearthstone meets poker, hey, we have Marvel Snap. Maybe something like that. But that's just not the kind of game that I enjoy at all. And I don't think it's a very skill testing game either. I mean, that Brode's claim that variance adds problem-solving skill, that's just total bullshit. Then that's just so blatantly logically untrue that it couldn't be further off the mark. And those are just not the types of games that I enjoy playing. But I can see how people would enjoy playing. People enjoy playing poker. So if you're into poker, you might be into Marvel Snap as well. But it's not a game that I enjoy, and it's not a game that I plan to create any content on. Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and a special thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, YouTube members and Twitch subscribers who make all of these videos possible.